Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be looking at the case of Helena Jubany. Now, if you recognize my accent as pretty poor, then what was that? You will know that you have to know that this is not my first language. In fact, this whole channel's purpose is to translate cases in Spanish to English, so more people can know about them. You could help by sharing the channel, subscribe, or like the video to, make these cases known more. I do have another channel that is fully in Spanish, so if you want to know, about a little bit more about this channel, about me, about other cases in Spanish, then go. I'm gonna leave it in the description below. So, let's begin. The Helena Jubany case adds to many unsolved murders. The trial could not be carried out at the time and it was left open to both justice and family members. After almost 20 years, still remains unsolved. After the case was closed in 2005, just a year ago it was reopened thanks to the investigative work of two journalists who knew that the police and investigators had not done their job well. In 2001, a young Helena Jubany had written the following after moving from Mataró to Sabadell. "I am aware that this time that I am living is the best of my life. And not only this, that it will be for the rest of my life. Unfortunately, the dreams and the untamed experiences did not come to be fulfilled due to the causes and effects that I am going to tell you about today." Helena Jubany was born on February 27, 1974 in Sabadell, a city of Barcelona in Spain. According to her father, Joan, Helena was a healthy girl and loved nature. At 27, she seemed happy and her mind and heart were focused on literature. She had completely read the books of Montserrat Roig, a great Spanish writer and journalist whom she deeply admired. Now, I'm sorry for the pronunciation of literature, but you see, I had a teacher back in high school who pronounced it literature, so I'm a bit confused. Till now. It's been more than 7 years. I'm still confused. Her life revolved around books. She had done internships at El Punto and Mataró TV. She had worked in bookstores in the Sentiment Library and even was a good storyteller. Thanks to the work she kept as a librarian, she had been able to become independent and rented an apartment in the Creu Alta neighborhood in her hometown. She added a new activity and responsibility to all of this. She signed up for the Sabadell Excursionist Union. She was happy fulfilling her goals and doing activities that she loved, developing in the field of literature as she had wanted so much. But on December 1st, 2001, she was reported missing. The reasons, as if we were speaking of puzzle pieces, could not be solved. To collect the research data, you had to go back a few months. It all started, it seems, on September 17, 2001 with some cupcakes, a bottle of horchata and a handwritten note. The note read, "Helena, surprise. We were passing by and we said, let's see what's up with Helena. We'll call you. It's it all." That someone had left on the front door of Helena's house. Horchata was her favorite drink, so it was not a random gift. Someone knew her, and very well. About 20 days later, she again received another gift. This time a granini peach juice, with another note. This note read the following: "Helena, first we hope you take this with the same sense of humor that we do. At the third time we will reveal the mystery. Very sure you will have a laugh. We would very much like to meet again on a US excursion. We will talk about it. Now we're going to see if we can find a good, nice and cheap place in Sabadell to perfect our English. Ah, bon appetit. Don't make us an ugly," referring to rejecting the gift. "In the third, you will invite us. Without a doubt, kisses." Unlike the first time she received her gift at her house, this time, Helena tasted the juice and immediately felt bad, unable to finish it. She had taken everything as a game, but it was much more serious than that. Given her symptoms, she decided to send this to a lab, and the results detected benzodiazepine in the contents. This was a sleeping pill. Someone had clearly plans for her, but so far there wasn't any direct attack. On Thursday, November 29, Helena left her job as a librarian to go to the Civic Center of Sabadell and thus be able to participate in the storytelling sessions that she loved so much. That same night, she went online between 11:45 p.m. and 12:20 a.m., according to investigations. She then fell asleep, and on that Friday morning, she spoke with a friend around 10 a.m. After this time lapse, nothing else was heard of Helena alive. The next time, she will be a lifeless body in a neighbor's yard. The fact that she did not go to work at the library determined her disappearance. Her boss tried to contact her, but she never responded. Even at the same time, her father called her job to know if she was there, if she had gone to work, if anyone knew anything about her, because they had organized to go to it together. They were both then aware of her absence, and a desperate search had begun. On Sunday, Helena had made plans with a friend, but she also did not attend this event. The weekend passed. On Monday, again, Helena was absent from work. Her father went to Helena's apartment and did not find her there. The situation finally led him to file the complaint of her disappearance at a police station in Sabadell around 8:30 p.m. Uncertainty invaded her family and friends. Helena had disappeared, leaving no trace, or so it was thought. The intrigue about her whereabouts lasted, after all, a short time. On December 2nd at 4:45 in the morning, Alfredo, a neighbor on Calvet Street, woke up scared when he heard a loud noise. However, he fell back asleep. In the morning, Alfredo opened the dining room windows, looked out for some fresh air, and saw a naked woman lying on the floor. She was 27-year-old Helena Jubany Lorente, but how did she get there? According to investigations, that Friday, November 30, she would have received a call and would have driven in a car towards Calvet de Estrella 48. In this place lived two of Helena's friends, Montserrat Careta, a teacher, and Santi La Iglesia, who was a criminal lawyer. To answer the previous question, Helena Jubany's body fell on the clotheslines that were in the backyard of this building. But now the question remained, had she killed herself? Had someone thrown her? Everything had changed, including the label for the police search. Helena went from being missing to being dead. Helena's body showed no signs of struggle. Almost immediately, the first hypothesis is that she killed herself. The young woman would have thrown herself from the roof and that was it. Her death shook the entire capital of Maresme because Helena was well known in the field of local literature and culture. Her body was naked. It was burned in different parts, such as the thorax, skull, and pelvis. Her head and face were disfigured by the impact on the floor. Unable to see her face, the police were slow identifying her. At the beginning of the investigation, which was led by Judge Manuel Horacio Garcia, the idea was being considered that Helena's body fell from the terrace of the building. There, on the adjoining rooftop, they found her clothes neatly folded. They also found traces of her hair. But the case and the police interrogations pointed directly to the scene. How did she get to that building? Who did she know in that place? Questions multiplied within the community. She was a girl who had no enemies, quite the opposite. Precisely, it was discovered that in an apartment in this building lived two friends known to Helena. As I said, Montserrat Careta, Santi La Iglesia, and at the moment, there was Ana Echaguibel Rad. These three people belonged to the Sabadell Excursionist Union group. So here's a point in common and to be highlighted regarding the notes that Helena had received at the time, accompanied by the Jews, where they said, "We would very much like to meet again on a UES excursion." Now, UES is the acronym for Unión Excursionista de Sabadell. So, you know, the group I previously mentioned she was part of. But it was not a mere coincidence. Little by little, data would come to light that would directly compromise them. The autopsy of the corpse revealed alarming data, in fact. The toxicological analysis revealed that Helena had ingested a kind of benzodiazepine cocktail. This included drugs such as alprazolam, midazolam, and lorazepam, in addition to finding caffeine and ethanol, an intense cocktail to put a large person to sleep. These sedatives and in the amounts in which they were found in her body implied that Helena was under a numbing effect at a coma level. So it was almost impossible that she could move on her own means. This makes it clear that she could not have climbed onto the terrace and thrown herself on her own. At this time, the theory that she had committed suicide by throwing herself off the roof was completely ruled out. The investigator on duty, Javier Duran, stated that the stairs to access the terrace were very steep. So he was looking for a strong person, or several, who could have moved her to the top floor. Like the burns, they could also have been done on purpose, to delay the time of identifying the body. Throughout the investigation, Jubany, Helena's father, handed over to the police the notes that her daughter had received, along with the rest of the fruit juice that he had sent for analysis at the time. It was assumed that the same drug had been found in Helena's body as in the juice. Everything seemed to be linked. Some of the loose ends that at first appeared to be only a joke in bad taste took the direction of a premeditated murder. The police decided to investigate within the Union of Excursionistas de Sabadell, both for the note and for the 3 people who were part of the group. The trio were questioned and none of them could justify where they were on the night of the events. They had not gone to work and also said that they had gone on an excursion with the UAS. It was later determined that they had not signed up for said event, leaving them uncovered and in the sights of the authorities. With the intention of collaborating with this painful event and giving effect to the resolution as soon as possible, Helena's friends were the ones that gave the police a list of the members of the UAS. This is where the name of Montserrat Careta came up with her address, which was the building where the body was found. However, relatives said that they had a very good relationship, that they were friends. Not so the relationship with Ana Echaguibel. That one was not so fluid. They had argued a few months prior. There were setbacks in the Montserrat interrogations. She claimed to have been in places that later were found to have been untrue. The same happened with Santiago La Iglesia, Montserrat's boyfriend. In his first statements, he said that he had slept alone and then went to pick up his girlfriend from her house. But he later denied this by changing the story, informing the police that they had spent the night together from the start. The other suspect, Ana Echaguibel, ignored the subject of her stating that she had not had any contact with Helena since they had fought in July in a storytelling session. The anonymous notes provided by Helena's father were submitted to expert opinions, and it was concluded that both had been written by 2 different people. To add to all of this, at the Montserrat home, they found an empty box of Noctamid, a medicine, and another one unused. This drug is the one that was present on Helena's corpse. They also found remains of cigarette matches, similar to the marks found on her body, and written sheets that were verified with the notes Helena had received. On February 12, 2002, the National Police arrested Ana and Montserrat for being considered the perpetrators of this event. As a method of defense, Santiago La Iglesia declared that Noctamid's presence in his house was because his mother sometimes used it. He was targeted and there were suspicions about his involvement, but he was never arrested. The judge even considered that there was insufficient evidence to prosecute him. Montserrat was imprisoned for 3 months in the Wad Ras prison in Barcelona. From there, she declared, "I am innocent because I have not caused the death of Helena, and to be a murderer, you have to be the executor of a death. I live with a clear conscience." And, as she said that, after that announcement, she took her own life by hanging herself from the sink in her cell. According to her lawyer, Joaquim Escudé, she was freed from guilt with a few nylon loops around her neck. Montserrat's death would determine her case, since she was in a position of maximum vulnerability, which would lead to her confessing, which evidently she did not because she didn't kill Helena. As for Ana, who was also in preventive detention due to lack of evidence, she was released after a few days, but she couldn't stay that way. It was evidence, but apparently it was not enough. The relatives of Helena in the fall of 2002, more precisely on October 3rd, held a press conference and together with her defense lawyer, Pep Manthi, reported that it could have been possible that the homicide was linked to a roleplay. It was made clear that the death of Helena was not an expected end for anyone, but that the game of receiving anonymous messages could have to do with this hypothesis. In theory, she would have been chosen by the alleged killers to unknowingly play a victim role within this fantasy. But the assumptions were only assumptions and the case ended up being shelved in 2005. The judge attributed that the solidity of the evidence had not been sufficient to maintain and justify the accusation for these 3 members of the UES suspected of the homicide, but that the cause was quiet for justice. But all of this did not mean that for friends and family it was over. Thanks to an investigation by 2 journalism students in 2017, new questions arose. They gathered information that questioned the pre-established nature of the case. They were Yago Garcia and Ana Prats, who considered that there was data that was not investigated. Together with Professor Francesc Burguet Ardiaca, this young woman investigated a little further from where the case left at the time. When the case was reopened, the judge ordered that the hard drive of Helena's computer be analyzed. So, with the calligraphic expertise and the presence of the sleeping pills in Montserrat's house, she was directly incriminated in the murder of Helena. But she had already taken her own life. Now her partner, Santiago, continued to be one of the main suspects, but he was always free. This hard drive was not a new thing, though. This information was present 20 years ago, but the investigation of it had been overlooked. That led to a failure in the investigation. Helena's brother had given it to the police, but they only checked her mailbox and some emails. For the relatives of the victim, it is clear that although the clues pointed almost directly to Montserrat Careta as the main author of the homicide, she alone could have not carried out the act. She weighed little more than 40 kilos, and Helena was under the influence of the drugs that had been administered to her. Taking her to the roof by the staircase was an impossible situation to imagine. Someone should have helped her, someone close, strong, and known. Santiago continued to be a possible author, or even at least an accomplice. All the research work of Yago and Ana added some photos and conversations found on the hard drive. In turn, the investigation that they opened questioned the actions and development of the police investigations carried out at the beginning. They realized that Montserrat's fingerprints had never been taken to determine if there were any of them on Helena's body, for example. They never looked for a match on that point. Also, this thing that her body was found almost naked had to do with the fact that perhaps the perpetrators of the murder could have left their fingerprints on the clothes. These questions that resonate in the air are asked by the relatives and strongly support their request for the reopening of the case. With a twist in this case, a new linguistic study appeared in 2018, confirming that the anonymous notes that Helena had received would not have been written by Montserrat. That way, it would dismiss her as a culprit. And once again, everyone turned to Santiago. As soon as the case appeared on TV again due to this investigation led by these 2 journalists, it was learned that Santiago had to go into hiding. He even moved to another city, and in this way he remains the only defendant. He was a lawyer and apparently was being covered up by the judge, since he refused to investigate him because you had to be careful because he was a lawyer. Helena's death motive and perpetrator have yet to be resolved, and according to the law, the case prescribes in 2021 for suspects who have not been investigated, but extends until 2025 for those who have. If anything good can be drawn from all of this, it was that, thanks to the movement of journalists and relatives, the reopening of the case was approved at the end of 2020. The investigation so continues to this day. We have never given up on their request for justice and investigation in Helena's case, and we will never give up. Helena's family said this in a statement. Helena's love for literature was kept alive thanks to a cultural association in Mataró that bears her name, where literary prizes are organized and stories are being told, as Helena loved doing when she was alive. So with all of this, we're done with the case. Tell me, what are your thoughts on it? I think there's more information in my main channel, in Spanish. If you want to watch that, please go to the description of this video and just click the link that I'll leave below. But tell me your opinions about it, the theories that you may have, everything that you like to write, please leave it in the comments below, and subscribe if you like this channel or you want to, see my English go better, I guess? Grow better? I don't know how you would say that. I have no idea. So, if you want more videos, subscribe. I'll leave you